Students, I am Sonali, and today we are going to do the revision which is based on the activities given in the first chapter, that is chemical reactions and equation. So let's start today's session. Our first activity is particularly based on the magnesium ribbon when it is burned. And what do you observe and why do we have to rub the magnesium ribbon? That is very important part of it. Okay, so let's see the answer. The magnesium ribbon burns with a dazzling flame and watch powder is collected on a watch glass. And okay, the powder which is formed after the burning, it is collected in the watch glass, placed under it, and when you mix this powder in water, you will get the solution of magnesium hydroxide, which is alkaline in nature, because the metal oxides, when mixed in water, it gives a base, or it is a alkaline in nature. And this powder is white in color. And the other part of the question, which is not given over here, but I can, if I ask why do we have to rub magnesium ribbon, the answer is magnesium ribbon reacts with the atmosphere. Okay, I'll draw magnesium ribbon over here, and this magnesium ribbon reacts with the atmospheric gas, or we can say the atmospheric oxygen, and it forms a layer of magnesium oxide, as you can see in this equation, right? And when the layer of magnesium oxide is formed, the reaction of magnesium ribbon becomes very delayed, or it doesn't react so quickly, so vigorously, so fast. So it is important to rub the magnesium ribbon before we burn it. Okay, now coming to the next part or the next activity, what do you observe when potassium iodide, that is Ki, solution is added to the lead nitrate, that is PbNO3 whole twice, PbNO3 whole twice, solution in the test tube. As you can see in the picture over here, there is a lead nitrate, potassium iodide and lead nitrate, PbNO3 whole twice, and when we mix these two solution, we can see the yellow precipitate. Okay, so observation is we can see the yellow precipitate. Okay, now this yellow precipitate is nothing but PbI2. Okay, this is a precipitate, so we have to show the precipitate by the downward arrow. And here we can see the chemical reaction, which is very important, and it is very important to balance the chemical reaction also. Now coming to the next activity, what happened to the zinc granules when dilute hydrochloric acid or sulfuric acid is added to it? Is there any change in its temperature? So these are the two observations that we are going to see when we do this experiments. Okay, so when I take a zinc granules, as you can see in this flask, round bottom flask, we have take zinc granules, and through this thistle funnel we can add hydrochloric acid. Okay, this is dilute hydrochloric acid. You can also take dilute H2SO4. When we add through this, what will happen? You can see over here the bubbles are coming out, and these bubbles are collected through this tube. This is a delivery tube, we call a delivery tube, and it is collected. This type of arrangement is known as downward displacement of water. Okay, so there is a tube over here in which we are going to collect hydrogen gas. And how can we find out that the released gas is a hydrogen? We can bring a burning splinter over here. If I bring the burning splinter over here, I can hear the pop-up sound. Okay, pop-up sound I can hear. So definitely this shows that the hydrogen gas is released in this process. And we can see the equation over here, Zn plus HCl gives ZnCl2. This hydrogen, we know that zinc is more reactive than hydrogen, That's why the hydrogen is replaced by zinc and we are getting ZnCl2 and hydrogen gas is released, which is shown by the upward arrow, right? In the next equation where we have to take Zn reacts with H2SO4, here we have taken sulfuric acid. So in this case the reaction equation will be little different, that is ZnSO4 and hydrogen gas is released, okay, and of course that hydrogen gas will be collected in the other test tube. Now what about the temperature? The second part of the question says the temperature. Of course there will be a release of heat. So if I touch this flask, I will find that this flask is little hot because there is a heat release in this process, okay. So temperature gets increased. There can be one more question asked on this particular activity. Instead of zinc granule, if I take zinc powder, what will happen to the reaction? Okay, the reaction will be more faster, it will be more vigorous. Okay, so that we can say why, because the surface area of powder is more as compared to granules. Okay, and if I say instead of zinc granule, if I take a piece of a zinc piece, of course it is going to react for a long time. This reaction will be a time consuming reaction. Why? Because zinc piece has less surface area, so it is less reactive. So this reaction will take altogether more time. Yes, coming to the next activity, is there any change in the temperature when water is added to the to calcium oxide, that is CaO, or we call it quicklime in a common language, right? So when you add water to calcium oxide, what will happen? Calcium hydroxide, that is known as slag lime, is formed, plus heat is evolved. Yes, it is exothermic reaction. What type of reaction? Exothermic reaction. Besides that, what can we see here? There is a product, that is calcium oxide. I can consider it as a product A, and water as a product, reactant A, calcium oxide, reactant B, water, and when A and B, two reactants react together, they are giving me one single product. So whenever you are getting a single product, you have to say that this type of reaction is a combination reaction. Okay, this is important. So in the exam they can ask you about the reaction, which type of reaction. It is a combination reaction because here two reactants are added and they are giving us one single product. And in the observation we can see the bubbles are coming out, and if I touch this flask, it is little hotter. Okay, it's become hot. So it is exothermic reaction. Let's see the next activity. Here, do you observe any change in the color of ferrous sulfate crystal when they are heated in the boiling tube over the flame of a burner or spirit lamp, right? As we can see here, the ferrous sulfate crystals are green in color. Okay, initially these crystals have water content in it, that is 7 molecules of water. We also call them water of crystallization. Okay, so when we heat the green color ferrous sulfate, what will happen? Initially this water molecules of water will get evaporate and we will get FeSO4, that is ferrous sulfate, okay, which is white in color, and if I continue to heat ferrous sulfate, and this ferrous sulfate which is white in color is also known as anhydrous ferrous sulfate. Why we call anhydrous ferrous sulfate? And why an means less or nothing, that means it has lost water molecules, and because of the loss of water molecules I call it anhydrous ferrous sulfate, right? And if I am going to heat anhydrous ferrous sulfate, then I will find that I'll get a ferric oxide. We know the color of ferric oxide, it is brownish in color. Okay, so brownish black over here it is given, brownish black in color. With that, sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide gas has also evolved. And of course, the sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide gas, it has a little irritating smell, or it smells like sulfur, as you can also say. Okay, so the observation is there is a change in a color from green to white, and if I still heat it, it will change from white to brownish black oxide, right? It is smell of burning sulfur will be observed. So two observations are very important. With that, the equation is also very important. This equation is important equation, and we need to balance it also. So as you can see, FeSO4 heat Fe2O3 plus SO2 and SO3. Okay, so iron over here is 2, so I need to balance iron. If I balance iron, rest of the things get balanced by itself, right? If I see oxygen over here is 4 and 2, that is 4 into 2, 8. And here 3 plus 2, 5 plus 3, 8. So 8 oxygen molecule on my right hand side, that is in the product. Then sulfur is 2 over here, and here also 1 sulfur and 2 sulfur. So equation is completely balanced. The physical state of different product and reactant you have to write. Ferric sulfate solid, ferrous sulfate solid, and ferric oxide solid, and sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide, that is gases. These are gases. Now coming to the next experiment, what do you observe when a boiling test tube containing lead nitrate powder is heated over the flame? Okay, now if you see this particular equation, over here we have taken a lead nitrate PbNO3 whole twice, and this is a reactant which is a single reactant. Here there is only one reactant. Okay, single reactant. Okay, when I have single reactant, that is when I have, let's take if I have AB, right, and if I'm going to heat it or any kind of decomposition, I'm getting A plus B, I'm getting more products over here, more than one products over here. So these type of reactions are known as decomposition reaction, where the reactant is single but the product can be they can be 2, 3 or anything, right, or in any number. So here when we heat lead nitrate, it decomposes with a crackling sound along with the evolution of brown fumes of nitrogen dioxide. Okay, so nitrogen dioxide over here is evolved, and this nitrogen dioxide is a little irritating smell. It has a very irritating smell, and this gas turns blue litmus red. Okay, if I bring a blue litmus near this test tube, if I bring the blue litmus near this test tube, definitely this litmus paper has to be little bit moist, okay, which is very important. If I bring the dry litmus paper, you won't find any kind of reaction, but if you bring the moist litmus paper, blue litmus paper, it will turn to red. Why? Why? Because the nitrogen dioxide, when mixed with water, NO2, okay, when it reacts with the water which is present in our litmus paper, it will give me HNO3, that is nitric acid. Okay, this is acid, and because of the acidic nature, my litmus paper will turn red. Blue litmus paper will turn red. So the gas turned blue litmus paper red, hence it is acidic in nature. So we can say that nitrogen dioxide is acidic in nature. Yellow solid residue of lead oxide remains in the test tube. Okay, so we can do these experiments in our class. If I get lead nitrate. Can show you this experiment in the class also. Coming to the next, during the electrolysis of water, we observe the formation of bubbles at both the electrodes. These bubbles displace water in the test tube, right? Okay, so if you see over here in the apparatus here, we have taken two electrodes. The positive one is anode and the negative one is cathode. Okay, and this electrodes are connected to battery. Okay, and then there is a switch, and when I switch on, when I pass electricity in this solution, I will see that in a test tube over here there is a collection of gas. Why? Because see, if I pass electricity in through water, which is made up of two atoms of hydrogen and one atom of oxygen. When hydrogen oxygen breaks, it doesn't break in a molecular form, it becomes ionic. Okay, ionic in nature. So hydrogen ions you will find, okay, and oxygen O2 negative ions also you will find. Okay, now because hydrogen is ion are positive, so definitely they will go to cathode. Why cathode? Because cathode is a negative electrode. So positive always attracts toward the negative electrode. It will go to cathode. So I will find the collection of hydrogen gas in the cathode. And then oxygen will go to anode. Why anode? Because anode is positive electrode. The negative ions will always attract towards the positive electrode. Okay, and I can see the collection of oxygen gas at anode and hydrogen gas at cathode. If you see the volume, you can see the volume of hydrogen is more. So there can be a question asked over here, why the volume of hydrogen is more? Because if I see the formula of water, two atoms of hydrogen are evolved when I break one molecule of water. So definitely the collection of hydrogen will be more as compared to the collection of oxygen. Okay. And how can you test if you don't know the terminals? How can you test? How can you test for the gases? That question is also very important. So if I bring, there are two test tubes right over here, and in one test we don't know what is present in the test tube, which gas is present in the test tube A, test tube B, right? And when I bring a burning splinter over here, and if this burning splinter burns vigorously with a huge flame, this shows that the gas in test tube A, let's take, it's oxygen. Why? Because oxygen supports fire. And if I bring a burning splinter in near the test tube B, and if I hear the pop-up sound, okay, pop-up sound, then definitely this is my hydrogen gas, okay. So this is how we can check for the gases collected in the two different test tube. Let's take another experiment. What happened to the color of silver chloride when it exposed to the sunlight? Silver chloride, AgCl, exposed to the sunlight, I am getting silver and I am getting chlorine gas. Here we can see there is one reactant and it decomposed into the two products, right? So this is a decomposition reaction because it is the decomposition is due to the sunlight, due to the photons or photons. So this is called photolysis. Lysis means breaking and photo means photons, these are the unit of sunlight. These are the unit of sunlight. So that is why we use the word photolysis. And if you see the color, observation is first the color. Initially the silver chloride is white in color, but after exposed to the sunlight, we can see it has changed into gray, okay, gray or dark gray you can say in color. And next experiment, which is quite similar to this, is silver bromide. Silver bromide in presence of light gives me silver and bromine gas. Bromine gas is brownish in color, reddish brown in color, and I can see silver bromide is dull yellow in color initially, but after exposed to the sunlight, you can see it has become a gray color, right? And the gas released over here is this bromine, which is brownish red in color, and over here the chlorine, which is yellowish green in color. Now let's do the next experiment. Here we have taken the test tubes and we have labeled it as A and B, and 10 ml of copper sulfate solution was added to both the test tube. Okay, and 2 iron nails that were cleaned by rubbing with sandpaper were immersed into test tube B and left undisturbed for 20 minutes. Okay, here what we have done, we have kept iron nail and we have kept it undisturbed, and compare the intensity of the blue color of copper sulfate solution test tube A and B. Also compare the color of the iron nail dipped in the copper sulfate solution with the kept, which is kept aside. Okay, so copper sulfate solution was initially, if you can see, it is initially blue in color. Over here it is blue in color, copper sulfate solution. Okay, and when I put iron nail immersed into it, you can see there is gradually there is a change in color. From blue it has become a little bit greenish in color, light green in color. Why? Because the copper, my copper sulfate solution, in my copper sulfate solution, this copper is replaced by iron, Fe. Why it is replaced by iron? Because in the activity series, if I see, iron comes first and copper comes later, much later. Okay, so iron is more reactive element than copper, so copper will be replaced by iron. So such kind of a reaction or such kind of equation are known as displacement reaction. Okay, here the copper is displaced by iron, so I am getting FeSO4 and copper is displaced. And these coppers, you can see there the blue there are brownish deposition on this iron nail. This brown or reddish deposition is due to the copper which was present initially in a copper sulfate solution. Okay, so brown coating on the iron nail which was dipped in the copper sulfate solution. This shows that the copper is deposited on the iron nail by displacing iron. Okay, coming to the next experiment, what happened when 3 ml of sodium sulfate solution is mixed with 3 ml of barium chloride solution? If you see sodium sulfate solution and barium chloride solution, right, if I mix these two solution, I will get a white color PPT. Okay, a white precipitate of barium sulfate. Okay, white PPT. So this is my observation, white PPT, because it is a PPT, should be denoted by the downward arrow, and definitely the solution left over is NaCl. Coming to the next experiment, what do you observe when we heat a china dish containing copper oxide or copper powder, sorry. When I take a china dish, as you can see in the picture, china dish, okay, if I heat this copper powder, I will find that it is coated by the black color. Here they have shown a black color. Okay, you can see the black color coat over here, right? When we heat, it is coated by the black color, and we get the equation is copper plus oxygen gives me copper oxide. Okay, when we heat copper, the oxygen which is present in the atmosphere will react with copper, and I am getting a coat of copper oxide over these copper metal. Okay, and if I pass hydrogen gas over this heated material, the black coating of the surface turns brown. Okay, so there will be a reverse reaction takes place and copper is obtained again. Okay, so when I pass hydrogen over copper, I am getting copper again. Copper is obtained again. So what will happen? This oxygen will get combined with hydrogen, and I am getting water over here, H2O, right? And if I see this equation carefully, copper oxide plus H2 gives me Cu plus H2O. So copper oxide, copper is having oxygen first, okay, and when I'm heating it is losing oxygen, okay. So the loss of oxygen, right, loss of oxygen is known as reduction reaction. This is what is a reduction reaction, okay. It can be loss of oxygen or it can be gain of hydrogen, okay, both known as reduction reaction, okay. Here copper oxide is losing oxygen, it is getting reduced and it is changing into copper. What happened to oxygen? The oxygen will be taken radially by my hydrogen, so hydrogen is gaining oxygen. Gain of oxygen, just opposite of the other reaction. Gain of oxygen is known as oxidation reaction. Oxidation reaction, okay. Gain of oxygen or loss of hydrogen, okay. Any one of this if happens, this known as oxidation reaction. So these type of reaction where the oxidation and reductions takes place simultaneously, we call these type of reaction as redox reactions, okay. There's one more example of redox reaction over here, zinc oxide and carbon. So I'm getting zinc and carbon monoxide is also formed. So zinc oxide is losing oxygen, so zinc oxide is getting reduced and carbon is getting or it is gaining oxygen, so carbon is getting oxidized here. So this is all about reactions and activities based on the first chapter. Practice the chapter and thank you so much.